When mentioning The Matrix, many people immediately recall the iconic 21st century science fiction film, first released in 1999 and directed by the Wachowski siblings. The Matrix is not merely an entertaining action movie but also a work containing multiple layers of profound philosophical meaning, which created a global cultural phenomenon. The film raises questions about the nature of reality, whether the world we live in is just an illusion, a computer program, or something beyond that. What is particularly notable is that the philosophical questions posed by The Matrix are not new. We can find them in many ancient intellectual traditions, most prominently in Hermetic philosophy. Hermeticism, also known as the Hermetic corpus, is an ancient mystical knowledge system originating from texts attributed to the legendary figure Hermes Trismegistus, considered a combination of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes. The Hermetic texts were mainly written around the 1st century CE and have since deeply influenced Western spiritual, philosophical, and esoteric traditions for centuries. Looking deeply into the storyline and main themes of The Matrix, we can observe very clear similarities with the teachings found in the Hermetic corpus. The film is not only a story about Neo, the chosen hero who liberates the world from the control of machines, but also a journey of enlightenment, a spiritual awakening through which humans realize that the physical world they perceive is only a veil of illusion, and the true reality exists on a higher dimension beyond sensory perception. In Hermeticism, there is a fundamental concept called as above, so below, meaning that the structure and operational principles of the microcosm, humans, soul, and the macrocosm, the universe, other planes of existence, are similar and closely interconnected. The Matrix clearly expresses this idea by depicting the world Neo lives in as a simulation, a copy of the true reality outside, much like Hermeticism's notion of multiple levels of existence and the reflection of different dimensions. Moreover, Neo's journey parallels the path of enlightenment described by Hermetic mystics and philosophers. Neo begins in confusion and doubt, constrained by preconceived notions of reality. But through trials and the guidance of Morpheus and his team, Neo gradually realizes the true nature of the world, transcends his own limits, and reaches a state of awakening, where he is no longer governed by the illusions constructed by the machines. The Hermetic texts also discuss the concept of mind as the origin of reality, that the universe is created from the ideas and thoughts of the divine mind. In The Matrix, this idea is represented by the physical world being a digital simulation created from code, a product of a superior intelligence or controlling entity. When Neo realizes he can manipulate this source code, he truly assumes the role of a master of reality, free from the system's control. Additionally, the film emphasizes many classical Hermetic themes such as liberation from the cycle of illusion, rebirth through awareness, and the power of knowledge to change destiny. These themes have persisted throughout human history, from antiquity to modern philosophy, and The Matrix serves as a modern retelling of the Hermetic scripture in a form accessible and relevant to contemporary audiences. It is also important to mention the symbolic elements. The film's imagery is rich with Hermetic symbolism. From character names, Neo, meaning new, renewal, Morpheus, god of dreams, symbolizing awakening, Trinity, the Trinity, symbolizing spiritual perfection, to images like the gears of the machines, the code on the screen, and action scenes representing the internal struggle between light and darkness. With its subtle blend of science fiction, thrilling action, and mystical philosophy, The Matrix has become a culturally influential icon, not only in entertainment, but also in spiritual thought and research. Viewing the film as a modern Hermetic scripture allows viewers to unlock deeper layers of meaning and recognize that Neo's journey is also each person's journey in life, from ignorance to enlightenment, from bondage to freedom. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the history and significance of the Hermetic corpus to better understand the philosophical foundation that inspired The Matrix, as well as the core principles the film reflects through its story. The Matrix is not merely a science fiction action film but a work containing profound layers of meaning about the nature of reality, consciousness, and freedom. Through the lens of Hermeticism, we can see the film as a modern scripture, where the material world we live in is actually just a false shell, a virtual matrix programmed to imprison human minds. The people in the film, much like us in real life, are trapped in a grand dream created by the system, preventing them from seeing the true nature of things. Neo's journey, from an ordinary man named Thomas Anderson, through gradual awakening and realization of the truth about the surrounding world, is a vivid symbol of the enlightenment process in Hermetic philosophy. When Neo accepts the red pill and leaves that false world, he begins a journey toward light, truth, and freedom. He abandons the safety of the familiar world to face the uncertainty and challenges of truth. This reflects the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, where transformation within individual consciousness influences the entire reality, and vice versa. The world outside the matrix and the world within are two sides of the same coin, just as Hermeticism teaches that everything is intimately connected and interacts with each other. Neo learns to control the matrix not by mere physical strength but by opening his mind, changing perception, and mastering the laws that govern the virtual reality. He is no longer a victim of the world but becomes its creator and transformer. Symbols appearing in the film, such as the Ouroboros serpent, the snake biting its own tail, represent the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, as well as the spiritual transformation of humans. Neo is reborn not only literally but also spiritually, from ignorance to awakening, from imprisonment in darkness to stepping into the light of truth. This journey is not easy and is filled with challenges requiring him to overcome fear, doubt, and his own limitations. Morpheus, the mentor guiding Neo, symbolizes the spiritual guide in the Hermetic tradition. He not only offers Neo the red pill but also inspires him to believe in the impossible, to stand against oppressive forces, and to find the path to true freedom. The choice between the red pill and the blue pill symbolizes the decision between awakening and living in illusion, between accepting the truth and remaining comfortably in darkness. The film also raises profound questions about duality, the coexistence of opposites such as light and darkness, freedom and oppression, truth and falsehood. Neo is not just a conqueror of evil but also a reconciler of opposites, realizing that true freedom can only come from understanding and balancing these forces. This is a key Hermetic perspective where wholeness and balance within the individual and the universe are paramount. The space in the matrix is constructed with symbolic images of light and darkness. Light represents knowledge, enlightenment, and truth, while darkness signifies ignorance, deception, and the bondage of the matrix. When Neo steps out of the virtual world, the brightly lit scenes symbolize his awakening and profound transformation. From then on, he becomes a living symbol of light and freedom in a world shackled by darkness and lies. Another central theme the film addresses is the balance between free will and destiny. Neo can choose to accept the truth or continue living in illusion. He can fight or flee. This choice reflects the Hermetic principles of causality and freedom, where humans are not victims of fate but have the power to create their destiny through awareness and action. Neo's journey is proof of the ability to master oneself and break free from limitations imposed by society and systems. The matrix system can also be understood as a metaphor for societal systems, the invisible chains of collective consciousness and the control humans impose upon themselves. The film calls us to awaken from those chains, to break free from limiting beliefs and return to true freedom and authentic selfhood. This is the core message of Hermeticism. Liberation does not come from the outside world but from within, through self-awareness and personal transformation. Thus, the Matrix is a modern Hermetic scripture, reflecting the journey of enlightenment, the interaction of cosmic principles, and the operation of individual consciousness in a world full of illusion. The film not only stimulates the imagination but also opens deep questions about reality, the meaning of life, and the path toward true freedom for humanity. To better understand why the Matrix is regarded as a modern Hermetic scripture, we need to look back into the past, returning to ancient times when the first Hermetic texts were formed, and explore the fundamental principles that have created its profound influence over thousands of years. Hermeticism originates from a collection of texts collectively called the Hermetica, ancient philosophical and mystical works primarily written in Greek and Coptic from approximately the 1st to the 4th century CE. These texts are believed to convey the teachings of the legendary figure Hermes Trismegistus, who is seen as a fusion of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes, representing knowledge, wisdom, and the ability to communicate information. Importantly, Hermeticism is not merely a religion or a simple belief system but a comprehensive mystical philosophy that includes science, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and art. It addresses the nature of the universe, the origin of humanity, the connection between the cosmos and the individual, and the process of spiritual enlightenment. One of the most fundamental and famous principles of Hermeticism is the principle, as above, so below. This phrase can be understood as a reminder that every phenomenon in the macrocosm, the vast universe, is reflected in the microcosm, the human being. In other words, humans are a miniature replica of the universe. Understanding oneself, according to Hermeticism, is the key to understanding the greater cosmos. Furthermore, Hermeticism emphasizes that reality is a single entity, existing in many forms, and all levels of existence are intimately connected. The universe is viewed as a living entity, with consciousness and energy permeating everywhere, all connected through a subtle network of energy. Hermeticism also conveys the idea that the mind creates reality. According to this, the universe arises from the will, thought, and ideas of the highest consciousness, called the All. All physical, mental, and spiritual phenomena are manifestations of a single, continuously creative energy. On the Hermetic spiritual path, mastering and understanding the mind is the most crucial element. Followers of Hermeticism believe that by comprehending and mastering the laws of the universe, one can raise their level of consciousness, break free from the illusions of the physical world, and access ultimate truth. This is the journey from ignorance to enlightenment, from being enslaved by matter to spiritual freedom. In addition, Hermeticism includes other principles such as the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, and the principle of cause and effect. Each principle describes how the universe and human consciousness operate, forming a profound and comprehensive system of knowledge. The Hermetic texts also involve the use of symbolic language and metaphor to convey mystical knowledge. These symbols are not merely images but keys to expanding awareness and exploring spiritual depth. For example, the Ouroboros, the serpent biting its own tail, symbolizes the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In this context, it is easy to recognize similarities with symbols and images in the Matrix. From the name Neo, meaning new, the presence of Morpheus, god of dreams, to Trinity, the Trinity, all carry deep symbolic meanings, evoking Hermetic principles of transformation, enlightenment, and the unity of cosmic elements. Especially, Neo's journey is the most vivid expression of the Hermetic principles of enlightenment and liberation. Neo undergoes a process of awakening from blindness, realizing that the world he lives in is only an illusion created by machines, a counterfeit copy of reality. This is the process of waking up from the dream, a common metaphor in mystical traditions in general and Hermeticism in particular. When Neo learns to see through the true nature of the world, he is no longer bound by ordinary physical laws. He can manipulate the matrix, control the environment through his will and belief, which in Hermeticism is considered the ability of one who has mastered their own mind and consciousness. Moreover, the matrix contains elements related to Buddhism, idealism, and concepts about the illusion of the material world, but Hermeticism remains a particularly suitable system of knowledge to decode and deeply understand this film. Because Hermeticism not only rests in philosophy but also includes methods of spiritual practice to approach reality beyond illusion. In the next section, we will analyze in depth the details, images, and developments in the Matrix to better see how the film reflects Hermetic principles and the philosophical messages it seeks to convey. Neo is not the only character in the Matrix representing the spiritual awakening journey in the Hermetic tradition. The members of the Zion group, especially Trinity, Morpheus, and the other warriors, also symbolize different aspects of this journey. Trinity, whose name signifies the connection of three elements, body, mind, and soul, embodies strength, perseverance, and love in the quest for truth. The love between Neo and Trinity is not merely a romantic story but also represents the spiritual power that can break the harshest bonds of virtual reality. Morpheus, the guiding teacher, symbolizes wisdom, persistence, and unwavering faith in human awakening. He is the bearer of the Hermetic tradition's torch, illuminating the path so Neo and others can see the light in the darkness. Morpheus reminds us that truth is not always pleasant or easy to accept, but it is a prerequisite for liberation and freedom. Meanwhile, the other warriors represent various states of human consciousness, from those fully awakened to those still struggling between darkness and light, illustrating the gradual process of inner awakening. The appearance of antagonists like Agent Smith also carries deep Hermetic symbolism. Smith embodies limitation, bondage, control, and the rigid laws of the system. He represents the darkness within humans, fear, ignorance, and the constraints imposed by power structures, society, and psychology. Smith is not only Neo's enemy but also a symbol of the imprisoned ego that must be recognized and overcome to attain true freedom. In their confrontation, both Neo and Smith embody the eternal struggle between freedom and destiny, light and darkness, creation and destruction. The film also contains many symbols and images related to ancient philosophy and other mystical traditions, such as monism, the idea that everything in the universe is an inseparable unified whole. The Matrix, the simulated world, is a veil covering the truth about this unity, causing humans to forget their divine origin and immortal nature. Neo's realization that he is the One is not merely the role of an action hero but an awareness of unity and the creative power inherent in every person, reflecting the Hermetic spirit that man is a little god within the great universe. Neo's story also carries meaning about spiritual rebirth. From being dead in the virtual world to coming back to life. In reality, Neo undergoes profound physical and spiritual transformation. This journey exemplifies the Hermetic principle that all things arise from death and rebirth, an endless cycle of transformation and evolution. Through this, the film reminds us that every person can undergo liberation from self-imprisonment, reclaim their inner light, and create a free, fulfilled life. What makes The Matrix especially powerful is its blending of ancient philosophy with modern language and technology, creating a story that is visually captivating and deeply meaningful. The film incorporates mystical philosophies such as Hermeticism, Gnosticism, and even Buddhism into a contemporary setting, making them more accessible and inspiring for today's audiences. This is the power of art, transforming profound truths into vivid stories that touch millions of souls. Additionally, The Matrix poses an open question about the nature of reality and consciousness. Is the world we live in truly the genuine reality? Or is it merely an illusion created by our minds? This question has appeared in Eastern and Western philosophy for thousands of years, and the film rekindles curiosity about the limits of human consciousness, the ability to transcend biases and self-imposed limits, and to reach absolute truth. In essence, The Matrix is not just a story about fighting external oppressive forces, but also an inner journey of each individual, a struggle against the constraints within one's own soul. It calls each of us to awaken, to question, and to seek the path to inner freedom, freedom from the mental matrices that society, media, and even ourselves have inadvertently built. Thus, when viewing The Matrix through the Hermetic perspective, we not only enjoy an intense science fiction film but also embark on a profound philosophical and spiritual journey. The film acts as a modern scripture, a map guiding people to realize the infinite potential within and understand that truth does not lie outside but within oneself. This is the enduring meaning and timeless power of The Matrix, a Hermetic scripture of the 21st century. Continuing deeper exploration into the connection between The Matrix and Hermetic philosophy, we cannot overlook the concept of inner transformation, a central theme of both the film and Hermetic tradition. Hermeticism teaches that humans must undergo a process of purification and inner change to reach a higher state of consciousness, a state of awakening that transcends material limitations. In The Matrix, Neo's journey symbolizes this transformation. From an ordinary person living in a virtual world, he gradually realizes the true nature of reality and the latent power within himself. The metaphor of transcending the matrix is a spiritual transformation, a liberation from the imprisonment of prejudices, fears, and limitations imposed by society or oneself. Neo as the One is not only the only person capable of breaking the system's chains but also a symbol of enlightenment that every person can achieve if they have the courage to face themselves. This reflects the Hermetic philosophy of seeking the light within and becoming the master of one's own being. In the film, Morpheus plays the role of a teacher, a guide for Neo, similar to mystical masters in the Hermetic tradition who transmit hidden knowledge and lead disciples through trials and awakening. Morpheus believes in Neo's destiny and choice, persuading him to accept the truth rather than live in illusion. Morpheus's mission is not only to rescue Neo from the false world but also to initiate the awakening process and deepen self-awareness. The appearance of the Oracle in the Matrix also reflects prophetic elements and mystical understanding characteristic of Hermeticism. The Oracle represents intuition, insight into what has yet to happen, and spiritual guidance for Neo in his quest for truth. She poses questions about free will and destiny, essential themes in philosophy and spirituality. Through the Oracle's guidance, Neo realizes that true power comes from trusting oneself and deciding to step beyond the boundaries of fear. Another aspect that makes The Matrix a modern Hermetic scripture is how the film emphasizes the necessity of knowledge for self-liberation. In Hermeticism, gnosis, knowledge, is not just information but direct experience of profound reality, understanding of the self and the cosmos. Neo must learn to read the source code of the Matrix, understand the illusionary system to manipulate it, and transform the surrounding world. This symbolizes grasping mystical knowledge and using it to master life. The scene where Neo trains fighting in the simulation program clearly illustrates the Hermetic principle. Matter reflects spirit. As Neo focuses on changing his mindset and belief, he also changes his ability to control his body and the virtual world, demonstrating that consciousness is the key to mastering reality. Hermeticism encourages people to master themselves internally before influencing the external world. The film also touches on the idea of the third eye metaphor, a mystical symbol of spiritual perception and the ability to see hidden truths beneath the surface. When Neo awakens, he opens his third eye to see the Matrix not merely as a virtual system but as the limitation of human perception, thereby unlocking a broader, multidimensional world. This experience is regarded in many mystical traditions as the beginning of profound enlightenment. Neo's cloak and gloves in the film also carry symbolic meaning. The signature long black coat, leather gloves, and sunglasses not only create an iconic image of difference but also symbolize awakening, self-mastery, and the ability to move between realities. This is the image of a traveler between worlds, a concept commonly found in mystical and Hermetic traditions. It is impossible to ignore the fusion of science and spirituality in The Matrix. The film questions the nature of reality while using concepts of codes, algorithms, and computer systems to express mystical principles about the formation and operation of the universe. This represents the convergence of two paths of knowledge, science and spirituality, once considered opposites, but now harmonized in a complex, multidimensional world. Notably, Neo also symbolizes the concept of the Messiah in many religious and mystical traditions. He is predicted and chosen to free humanity from the imprisonment of illusion, leading them into the light of freedom. This figure reflects the Hermetic principle of spiritual rebirth and salvation, a theme essential to Hermeticism and other belief systems. Immortality and rebirth are subtly explored in The Matrix. Neo dies and is reborn, demonstrating that spiritual transformation is not a single event but an ongoing process of destruction and renewal. This is a metaphor for deep awakening, where the old dies away to make room for the new and higher in the journey toward truth. In conclusion, The Matrix is a multi-layered work of art containing profound Hermetic philosophical and spiritual teachings. It is not just a story about a hero defeating the system but the journey of every individual in battling with themselves, with the limits of perception, and with the illusions of the material world. The film issues a powerful invitation: awaken, seek the inner light, and become the master of your own life. Ultimately, Neo's journey in the Matrix serves as a profound reminder of the power and responsibility humans hold when confronting reality. Hermeticism not only teaches us to recognize illusions in order to transcend them but also encourages self-awareness and personal development to attain true freedom. By perceiving the world as a manifestation of the mind, and oneself as part of the cosmic system, each individual is invited to awaken and return to their inner light. Thus, The Matrix is not merely a science fiction film filled with breathtaking action scenes but also a modern scripture for those seeking truth and deeper meaning in life. It raises questions about the nature of reality, the limits of knowledge, and true freedom, questions that Hermeticism has pursued for thousands of years. The virtual world of The Matrix, with all its artificiality and impositions, reflects the inner world of each person. When Neo chooses to leave that virtual world, he also chooses to face himself, his fears, limitations, and emotional wounds. This is the message Hermeticism conveys. Only when you dare to step through your own darkness can you reach the light of truth and freedom. Just as the ancient maxim, "As above, so below," suggests, The Matrix demonstrates the inseparable connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm, between the individual world and the vast universe. Every action and choice Neo makes affects not only his own life but the entire system. This emphasizes the importance of awakening and conscious responsibility in every step each person takes. Neo's journey also teaches us about faith in oneself, in the guidance of the soul, and in the power of knowledge. Morpheus and the Oracle serve as teachers who keep the flame of wisdom alive and illuminate Neo's path, highlighting the importance of guidance, tradition, and inheritance in spiritual development. Hermeticism consistently stresses learning under the direction of masters to unlock the infinite potential within every individual. Moreover, The Matrix serves as a warning about the dangers of dependence on virtual worlds and technology. When people lose connection with their true self and inner world, they are easily swept into the whirlpool of illusions, losing direction and falling into unconsciousness. Hermeticism teaches that the path of awakening is challenging, requiring vigilance, discipline, and profound self-understanding to avoid getting lost in the maze of illusions. Finally, the message of The Matrix evokes a powerful call. Everyone must awaken, seek their inner light, and embark on the journey back to themselves. This journey involves overcoming the limits of matter, mind, and external illusions to touch the immutable truth of the universe. It is the path of the Hermetic, one who strives for harmony between humanity and the cosmos, between matter and spirit, between darkness and light. Therefore, The Matrix is a modern Hermetic scripture, a profound work of art embodying timeless philosophical and spiritual values. It is not only the story of a hero fighting against the system but also an opening door into the mystical world of awakening and freedom. It is a reminder that, regardless of circumstances, truth always awaits discovery, and only by daring to face ourselves can we truly be liberated.